from Fox News. Breaking Bad star calls for revolution after federal agent shooting in Minneapolis. Actor Giancarlo Esposito tells Variety that very rich old white men are exerting their power to suppress our own people after weekend shooting. I want to add to this that Molly Ringwald said that the people who supported ICE will be treated as traitors and collaborators, just like in World War II. And if you don't know what that means, it means you're going to be executed. I'm not trying to be cute. I'm not trying to exaggerate. Look it up. In France, after the war, they went around hunting down people that collaborated and executed them. Not everybody, but I think it was around 7,000 people were executed. Many others fled. So when the Nazis came in, if you were a politician or a business owner and you were giving them food, they remembered you. And that's what she's threatening you with, mass executions. It's not a joke. Let me play this clip. You can hear what the guy said for yourself. And then, yeah.
This is time for a revolution. It's time for it, and they don't even know that's what they're starting. You know, some very rich old white men are exerting their power to suppress our own people, thus creating a feeling of civil war in the streets, preparing the haters to hate, teaching them how to shoot. They're not even trained right, to kill.
This man, and I tell you what is the most important component of this is not that a celebrity is calling for revolution. It's that you can see it in his eyes. He doesn't know what this will mean. He doesn't know what this will mean. The horrors you will experience are beyond your comprehension. Go talk to any real combat veteran. Go talk to one of these guys doing wet works in foreign countries and talk to them about what happens when the system falls apart. Talk to them about in Egypt, when the military decided they could not keep a hand on the Muslim Brotherhood, so they showed up with AKs and started mowing people down, just killing them in the street. This guy doesn't understand. He'll be sitting in Santa Monica, sipping his coffee, saying, I think the rich white, boom! And then half his face is blown off and he's sitting there shaking. Can't hear anything with blood dripping from his mouth.
That's exactly how his character in Breaking Bad got it.
Spoiler alert.
Right. You know, and what he was saying, at least from my perspective, some of his diagnosis is correct, or he's on the right track in that there are groups of older, I don't know if they're old white men, whatever. There's groups of, I think, consider them bankers, that are structuring our economy for a collapse and anticipating street fighting in the United States, and they're happy for it because they don't like free speech and gun rights and property rights. They want a socialistic corporatocracy, and they want us to be corporate slaves. That's what corporate governance is. That's what ESG is. So he's kind of right about that, I think, but the whole blaming the U.S. government and ICE is not, I think that's where he's missing it. I think that's where he's missing the diagnosis.
With this stuff, what does it matter? The worldview of these people is not going to change, and you're not going to convince them. You're not going to sit down for a cup of coffee and explain to Giancarlo Esposito why you don't want war, because he doesn't know. If this guy knew, he would not be calling for it, and he's not going to believe you. The only thing that would ever change these people's minds is actual experience. Yes. But how do you give someone experience of what it's like to be in a war?
These people live in a made-up fairy tale world where everything is just movies and social media and TikTok. And when you call for revolution, it's so interesting because the left always wants to call for violence, right? But after Charlie Kirk was brutally murdered, we called for a revival, not a revolution. We were not trying to fight against the people who were celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. We wanted to bring more people to Christ, and that's what Turning Point tried to do. And it's just so interesting. I mean, do these people really want to live through a war?
They don't know what a war is.
Look at what Larry Krasner said, though. He's a DA in Philly, literally saying we're going to hunt them down like ICE agents, like Nazis, and identify them.
That's why I said it's permission.
They
people
want
in,
this to happen.
Yeah, people in positions of authority saying that kind of stuff give permission to people that are not in positions of authority.
They want this to happen.
We've gone back and forth, Phil and I, quite a bit on there is no off-ramp.
Right.
And we are in a substantially worse position now than we were 6 months ago and 6 months before that. Is there any indication this is slowing down or is not going to escalate?
No, and we've been saying this for 3 years. Like within the first 6 months of me coming on the show, we started talking about that.
Phil sat down the first day he was here and he went Civil War. And I was like, Phil, slow down there. We don't say that on this show.
No, but we did. Like it was in like what 2023 or whatever. We were like, where's the off ramp? But how do we stop this? Because things are only going to keep escalating.
That doesn't mean that there isn't one though, because not being able to see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Well, the off-ramp, I'd imagine, and just it includes the way we often describe it is, you know what, let's do this. We had Tony on the show, Tony Ortiz, and he said he's in the nothing ever happens camp. My argument to him is that the people who think nothing ever happens have a fictionalized or condensed view of what history really is. You read a history book, you'll read a single page explaining the entirety of World War II. Certainly overlooks the nuances of every year throughout the conflict, or the American Revolution for that matter. People, I assure you, first and foremost, if you go to Times Square and ask someone when was the Declaration of Independence signed, they're going to be like, what's that? The next step you're going to get is people who say July 4th, 1776. And then only the smallest amount of people are going to say July 2nd, 1776, because they actually read it. And then you're going to ask people, when did the American Revolution start? And they're going to say 1776. First, people are going to say, I don't know. Then you're going to get the 1776. Then you're going to get people who say, well, we don't have a set year, but it was likely around late 1760s, in fact, into the 1770s.
1 out of a million people would say that, probably.
Exactly. Or they'll say the Battle of Lexington and Concord in 1775, a full year before the Declaration was signed. They don't actually know. And my point here is, we are in the thick of it today. The American Revolutionary period was 20 years. And they were in the thick of it and didn't know what was going to happen and didn't think it was a war immediately. And we talk about the American Civil War. These people, when they say things like nothing ever happens, they don't realize that it was always going to be grains of sand making a heap or snowflakes in an avalanche. And so when, these people say things like they want a revolution, that's when I'm looking at the market, I'm looking at the ticker being like, how do you reverse course on this? In which case, ultimately, my point is the off-ramp for the frogs in the pot is cranking the temperature up 10 degrees instantly. Because the argument is these people who think nothing is happening are frogs sitting in a pot and the temperature is slowly rising so they don't notice. I would argue it like this. If the temperature of the water is 70 degrees and it rises to 80, did something happen? Well, the answer is yeah. The water's actually gone from lukewarm. It's actually kind of warm now. If it goes from 70 to 90, did something happen? Yeah, you're getting pretty hot water. If it goes from 70 to 100, certainly something happened. The problem is they're not calculating it was 70 yesterday, it's 100 now. The people who think nothing ever happens are saying, what do you mean? The temperature was 89 degrees last week. It's only 90 now. Nothing ever happens. So how do you shock these people and wake them up? You crank the flame all the way to the top so it goes from 89 degrees to 120 and they go, holy crap, and they jump out. And my point is, shock and awe is likely the only thing to stop this, which is why I said the other day, Trump needs to stand down or suit up. You can't do half measures.
I like the statement. That is a cool statement. But that's the accelerationist take on things, which has some value, which is why people think of themselves as accelerationists. Like
technically,
you could also shake the pot without turning the temperature up, and that will
that's the same point. That's shock and awe.
That will wake them up without having to turn the temperature up. It'll feel hotter because now there's friction.
How would you do that?
Regardless,
that's the creative. Those are the arts. That's where sciences and arts. It shakes up the pot.
But we are in agreement. The point is, shock them. The people who are in the pot, if you move it gently from side to side, they're going to be like nothing's happening. If you jolt it, they're going to say earthquake and jump out. If you crank the temperature up, they're going to say, it's all of a sudden very hot. They're going to jump out. It's the half measures that are inching us towards catastrophe. Now, that's why I said again, Trump needs to stand down or suit up. He needs to insurrection act, go into these places, send the National Guard out, say we're we're taking over domestic law enforcement to stop the extremism, because you need to wake people up to what's going on. There's no guarantee that works. So then the other option is stop playing into leftist agitprop and giving them the photo ops they're asking for with these half measures.
Yeah, in fact, I'd like to see them turn the temperature down by actually highlighting that they're releasing some of the nonviolent criminals if it's actually happening. And one of our
that
guests
doesn't turn the temperature down, that increases it.
You don't
people on the right are going to boil if you release these people.
Right.
That's right. Okay. The reason the temperature is going up is not because there's a collective effort to where people are agreeing on the left and right. Hey, you want to make things worse? Yeah. It's that the left, when Tim Walz calls Trump on the phone and says, let's negotiate, the left protested him.
What about peace through strength?
That's what I'm saying.
What about
shock
going
and awe.
in there full force with everybody you got, making a big scene, and be scared?
Agreed.
Terrified. That's where I want to be.
That's what I'm saying. Trump, insurrection act.
If it's going to work over there, it can work domestically.
I don't think it was.
I'm saying you need people to realize you need, first of all, Trump needs to assert the monopoly on violence and say, enough of this. You know, I rag on the libertarians because I don't understand what the benefit is to what's going on. Let this conflict just boil over and keep happening. It's bootlicking to want the riots to stop, to want the windows to stop being smashed, people to stop being killed. This is my beef with the libertarians right now. A guy died. Preddy's dead. It shouldn't have happened. I believe he was radicalized. I believe he knew the consequences, and he went out there, and more people are going to do it. We can stop it right now. I tweeted, Trump should go to Minneapolis, and all of this stops. And, you know, it's hard to convey this over a tweet or an X post because people are like, what's Trump going to do? When the president goes to a city, the city goes on lockdown. It's in effect, an insurrection act. If Trump invokes the Insurrection Act, he is making a declaration and saying, I'm taking over law enforcement. That could be too hot. That could turn things up. Maybe it turns it up enough to shock people and make people back away. There's another play. Trump announces he will be visiting Minneapolis so that he can work with the governor and bring the temperature down. Secret Service, National Guard, federal police lock the whole city down, and all of a sudden there's no riots anymore. It pushes out, you create security checkpoints, security zones, and simply by being there, Trump isn't saying, I'm crushing you. He's just literally crushing them and not giving them a narrative option. If Trump invokes the Insurrection Act, the fear is they'll say, this proves he's a fascist. If Trump says, I want to help Minnesota and calm things down, so I'll be visiting, then they effectively lock the city down.
It's a fantastic
and there's no escalation.
Tactic. That's an excellent tactic. That's what his advisors should be telling him in the boardroom right now. Probably they're watching this show and they're going to tell him. The only downside is now you said it publicly, so people will hear that, but they won't matter. So good job.
Yeah, that's what I say,
and
it shows tremendous strength from Trump.
And he can do diplomacy while he's there, legitimately.
Trump can say, I am going to come down personally to try and help the community and bring the temperature down. Trump could even say, I am deeply troubled by the death of Alex Preddy and Renee Good. These things should not happen. I am going to personally come to work with the mayor and the governor to make sure this stops. And simply by showing up, they lock the city down.
Yeah, I think that's
and
actually...
it's a personal. Listen, it makes Trump look strong. Lisa doesn't like it. She wants the boot.
No, I think that all that does is say, oh, whenever you throw a violent temper tantrum, you get your way, and then it's going to encourage everybody to do that.
How are they getting their way if Trump says I'm putting a boot down?
Look, he's not putting a boot down. He's going in there and saying, you just said to say that, the Preddy thing was terrible or whatever. Like, no, you can't give them. You can't
They're
even
gonna
give
be
them.
mad either way.
Yeah,
Sure they are, but
you can't give them a win at all.
You stop the agitprop overnight. You shut down their tactic.
Well, you do. He already said all that. He already said that, and we're pulling people out now. Homan says we're pulling people out, and that's
yeah,
because
that's
they're
all
working with the
bad.
deals. Yeah, that's horrible. Like that's conceding.
Pulling the temperature down is good. I'll say that. Homan is toning the temperature down. He's trying to say it shouldn't happen. We don't want anybody to die. I can respect that. Trump should do it personally. It's not an issue. The point is,
I can see that, but...
if Trump invokes the Insurrection Act, they're going to fundraise $1 million off of it.
I understand that.
If Trump
shows up,
yeah,
there's nothing to fundraise off of.
Show up with what though? By
Just
himself?
him.
Just show up.
Nah.
No, well, I mean, he's not going to go there by
lock down
himself.
the highways.
He's going to
They're going to create checkpoints.
Yeah.
Secret Service and National Guard will be everywhere, and they can't say he's a fascist for doing it because it's literally just standard procedure, and he's not invoking anything.
And that's the kind of stuff that the military does. Like when the military wants to take a location, they just go in with overwhelming force, and then they just sit there.
Well, he said by himself, not overwhelming force. I want to overwhelm.
The president's not going to go by himself.
When the president goes somewhere,
you work
they
on
announce.
here, you know this.
But no, I'm not talking about like a Secret Service. I'm talking about when you say overwhelming force. I want like every trained ICE officer who's trained on removals to be in there and get it all done at once.
And that's a potentiality, which I said is Insurrection Act. The concern with that is the possibility of blowback.
No, you don't have to do the Insurrection Act to do it. You just have to take all the ICE agents and ramp up the deportations. You can have Trump
There's not enough
there or
ICE agents.
I mean, take the ones that are doing all the stuff in Florida and Texas. You can halt them for now.
So you want to shut
everybody
down the functional, the ICE operations that are working?
Yeah, because if you go in and you swarm, you get it done real quick, get everybody out of there as soon as possible, and you go to the places that aren't bothering you, and then it's all over.
No, I think that's a half measure, and that's the problem. Trump surged 2,000 additional feds into Minnesota, and it made things worse. It's either Insurrection Act, you go all the way, or you do nothing. And the point I'm making about Trump just going there is that it locks the city down. It shuts down their agitprop. They have no opportunity for propaganda. Propaganda. They have no opportunity for fundraising. They can't call Trump a fascist. Trump just says, "What do you mean? I came to try and help the mayor." And there's no Trump beat anybody. There's no opportunity for them to do it. Yeah, it cuts them off at the shin.
The president doesn't need a reason to visit a city. Like it's not like the president needs to clear.
I'm not opposed to him going there. I don't want to give them an inch. I don't want to. I don't even want to take the rhetoric down to like we did anything wrong.
But listen, you got to be careful not to be Wile E. Coyote running off the cliff.
Why do we have to behave when they don't play by the rules?
I'm not saying behave. I'm saying stop buying into their agitprop.
It's not about the agitprop. I don't care about their agitprop.
They want the half measure. They want the half measure. Don't do a half measure.
I don't want to do a half measure. I want the whole.
Insurrection Act.
Yeah, I guess, sure.
Yeah, Trump needs to assume control of local law enforcement,
I want
put National Guard on every street corner, and say no more rioting.
Yes, that's what I would like.
The concern,
and we will
do
this in every city if we have to, if you keep behaving this way.
Indeed, you can't, though. That's the problem. There's not enough people.
We should go back to requiring young men to serve.
Well, that doesn't work because they get angry, but there's 30,000 feds? So how do you occupy every single city? You can't. So Trump's got a finite amount of pieces on the board, and clearly the surging 2,000 additional feds did not work. So there's a few options.
It did not work.
And Trump took the half measure approach once again, which I think is going to be a net negative. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.